It says Iran's Khamenei lashes out at protesters as nationwide anti-regime unrest grows. At least 10 people killed as demonstrations spread across 100 locations in 22 provinces, opposition groups report. The ruling Ayatollah, oh my god, how did I remember that word earlier? I'm nuts. The ruling Ayatollah of the Islamic Republic of Iran, Ali Khamenei, how do I pronounce this man's name? On Saturday issued an angry response to the unfolding nationwide demonstrations against his regime's political and economic corruption. The 86-year-old Khamenei, in his first speech since the strikes and social unrest rocked his fragile regime 7 days ago, declared a number of agitated people, enemy mercenaries, had positioned themselves behind bazaar merchants and chanted slogans against Islam, against Iran, and against the Islamic Republic. Protest is legitimate, but protest is different from rioting. He warned that officials should speak with protesters. Speaking with a rioter is pointless. Rioters must be put in their place. Khamenei's branding of the pro-democracy activists as rioters follows President Trump's unprecedented message of solidarity to the demonstrators on Friday. If Iran shots and violently kills peaceful protesters, which is their custom, the United States of America will come to their rescue. We are locked and loaded and ready to go, Trump wrote on Truth Social. According to information supplied to Fox News Digital from the National Council of Resistance of Iran, the NCRI, an organization that seeks to topple Khamenei's regime, Khamenei's security forces again opened fire on protesters. In Malek Shahi, Ilam province, young people demonstrated and the regime's forces shot peaceful activists, resulting in deaths and injuries. As of Saturday, the regime has killed at least 10 people. The US-based human rights activist news agency said demonstrations unfolded in more than 100 locations in 22 of Iran's 31 provinces. The NCRI said 30 protesters in Malek Shahi were shot and were in critical condition. The dissident group also said that the people of Khazairan demonstrated Saturday in the city's Shohada Square, where security fired live ammunition at the protesters. Young anti-regime demonstrators in the Gulshan district of Shiraz blocked the road by setting tires on fire. Students at the Sharud University of Technology chanted, "Students will die but not accept humiliation." And students at the Alameh University's Hemet dormitory in Tehran declared, "Death to the dictator." NCRI leader Mariam Rajavi's response to Khamenei on Saturday noted that Khamenei is right. 80 million Iranians are his enemy. They have only one message for him: pack up his rule and remove his scourge from the Iranian people. Better still if he comes to his senses and leaves of his own accord. Khamenei must know that threats, bluster, and repression cannot stop the uprising. A nation who has taken to the streets will not stand down until democracy and popular sovereignty are achieved. Reza Pahlavi, the son of Iran's last Shah, wrote on X, Ali Khamenei, fearing the growing waves of this national uprising, has emerged from his hiding place to threaten the people of Iran. Khamenei, we the people of Iran will pull you down from your teetering perch like Zahak the Despot, and will be free our beloved Iran from you and your regime. To the military and law enforcement forces, do not tie your fate to the sinking ship of the Islamic Republic. Join the people and separate yourselves from this corrupt system. Your weapons are for defending the nation, not suppressing it. Those who fire bullets at the people should be certain that they will be identified and punished. Fellow countrymen, do not abandon the streets, increase your presence. The world sees your resistance and bravery and supports you. And I do not know exactly everything that's been going on in Iran, but I do remember Khamenei being the person installed in the 1979 Iranian Revolution, where Iran basically lost a lot of rights in favor of the Islamic Republic. Only thing that worries you is that these are students. You hope they won't replace them with a Marxist or a communist. Well, that is where I have an old tab. Let me see if I can bring it up. We had this ABC News article, Iranian protests expand beyond the economy as students demand freedom and an end to regime rule. University students in different cities in Iran joined protests against the regime Tuesday by chanting slogans that included "Student, be the voice of your people," and "Death to the Islamic Republic." The protest began Sunday in downtown Tehran, and the Iranian currency hit a new low. but they have since expanded in size and scope, moving beyond the narrower cause of the economy to freedom and equality, and an end to the regime evident in the slogans protesters are chanting. Many shop owners in 2 major malls in downtown Tehran and in other cities have closed their stores and joined the demonstrationers, as severe uncertainty remains in the country's currency trade market following a sharp decline in the value of the rial, the nation's currency. The rial has been fluctuating in value between 1.38 million and 1.45 million per US dollar since Sunday. That's some like Zimbabwe numbers. What the hell? What the fuck? That's crazy. Reports from across the country indicate that shop owners in other cities, including the western city of Hamadan and the southern island of Kirsche, have also joined the protest by closing their stores. Slogans such as "Death to the Dictator" and "Sayyid Ali Khamenei" will be toppled this year, referring to Iran's supreme leader, were heard in Kashim and Zanjan, according to reports. Amid the widespread protests and the currency plunging to a new record low, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian accepted the resignation of the head of the country's central bank on Monday, IRNA reported. I have a question. If they have a president, what's the point of the president's role if Khamenei is the supreme leader? Is this just like president to make it look like they have a presidential role? Most Iranians struggle to keep up with constantly rising prices in the country due to the rapid fall of the rial, which declined in value from 34,000 rials against the US dollar in July 2016 to 165,000 rials against the dollar in May 2020. Its value has plummeted more than 800% since then. I'm not like a money doctor. I'm not like an economist or anything, but like that seems pretty bad to me. That seems pretty fucking crazy. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian acknowledged the protesters' demands in a post on his X account on Monday, saying in part that the livelihood of the people is his daily concern. We have fundamental actions on the agenda to reform the monetary and banking system and preserve the purchasing power of the people, he added. I have tasked the Minister of the Interior to hear the legitimate demands of the protesters through dialogue with their representatives, so that the government can act with all its might to resolve problems and respond responsibly. Pezeshkian's comments, however, do not appear to have appeased protesters on the street, whose demands do not stop at resolving economic hardships. Students at Khaja Nasir University of Tehran shouted slogans including "No to Scarf," "No to Suppression," "Freedom and Equality," targeting the regime's suppression of personal and political freedom over the last decades. And I think reading all of this stuff about like protests in Iran remind me of like how badly the very cushiony left in our country want to be the oppressed, because they LARP at this like revolution when they live in a very individualistic and free country. They are not the ones who are oppressed, they are the ones who desire to be the oppressors. But they LARP as an oppressed class because they want to engage in the kind of shit that these people who are actually in the middle of oppression have had to deal with. We laugh about this, but the difference between them and us is we print as much cash as we want and keep its value through "you're all accepting this or else." You'd love to be shown otherwise, but note how Trump shut up about Fort Knox audit real fast. You see, I kind of came to a similar conclusion when I was just like, we keep talking about the US debt clock, but like, debt to whom? Like, if we just don't pay it, who's gonna do anything about it, right? Like, it essentially isn't real. We should have never left the gold standard. Part of the reason it keeps falling has to do with the lack of global demand for the rial. Nobody wants to do a transaction with a currency that's linked to a religious dictatorship, especially one as violent and destabilizing as Iran. Interesting. The ongoing protests are the biggest Iran has seen since the nationwide protests in 2021 and 2022, following the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini, who died in a hospital in Tehran after she was arrested by police for not fully following the Sharia-based law of the Islamic Republic that women wear the hijab. Hundreds were killed and tens of thousands were arrested in the resulting outcry across the country. I'm just racking my brain trying to think if we have, like, anything equivocal I could even point to in the US here that would be anywhere similar to like someone in our government doing something like this. And the only thing I can think of is the insane leftists having assassinated Charlie Kirk. As like the only thing I can really point to. And that's not our government, that's an insane leftist committing political assassination. Yeah, Waco, but Waco was like a long time ago in comparison, right? And this is like, the protests were in 2021 and 22 following the death of this person, and now we're in 2026 and things are really exploding. So it took like 3 years, 3 to 4 years for people to get even more fed up after somebody was wrongfully killed by the government regime there. Remember, the Obama administration flew $500 million in gold, cash, and hard currency into Iran in the dead of night as a bribe to get the Iranians to the diplomatic table for the nuke deal, and they still stiffed us. No, I don't remember that. What the fuck? Video and pictures coming from different cities in Iran show a heavy police and security force presence as the ongoing protests, with some videos showing police using tear gas against protesters. A widely shared video from Tehran shows a solitary protester sitting in the middle of a street, hunched over and covering his head, as a large number of police on motorcycles face him just a few yards away. The scene has quickly become symbolic of the ongoing protests. The protests come as Pezeshkian said Iran is in a full-scale war with the US, Israel, and Europe, claiming that the West does not want Iran to stand on its feet. President Donald Trump said Monday responded that the US would knock the hell out of Iran if Tehran attempted to rearm itself following US attacks earlier this year on Iran's nuclear facilities. Asked if he would support an overthrow of the Iranian regime, Trump said Monday that he was not going to discuss it. I mean, I'm not going to talk about overthrow of a regime. They got a lot of problems they're in. They have tremendous inflation. Their economy is bust. Their economy is no good. And I know that people aren't so happy, said Trump. And then I had this from the Institute for the Study of War. Iran update December 31st, 2025. Protests continue to expand geographically across Iran on December 31st. Small protests broke out in Tehran on December 28th and have since spread out to 17 of Iran's 31 provinces. Protests spread to Chahar Mahal and Bakhtiari, Ilam, Khuzestan, Khorasan, Razavi, and Lorestan provinces on December 31st. CTP-ISW recorded a total of 31 protests in Iran on December 31st, compared to 24 protests on December 30th. The protests took place across 12 provinces, including the 5 mentioned above. Iranian security forces shot live fire to disperse protesters in at least 2 of the instances on December 31st, as protests continued across Iran for the 4th consecutive day. Security forces fired live ammunition at crowds of protesters in Fasa, Fars province, and Kudasht, Lorestan province on December 31st. The regime appears to be using live fire to suppress protests in less populated areas of Iran. The regime has historically struggled to impose control in more rural areas. The regime also deployed water cannons in an attempt to suppress protests on December 31st. Security forces used a water cannon against protesters in Hamadan. Talking about weather here. And then there's a map, protest in Iran. What is the color grid? High confidence, medium confidence, low confidence. Interesting. Protests in Iran continue to expand geographically for the 4th day. Iranian security forces used water cannon in Hamadan. Security forces shot live fire in Fasa, Fars province, so it has the little dots to it. Only shows protests that CTP-ISW has recorded since its last data cutoff. Not all of the protests that CTP-ISW has recorded since December 28th. Iranian regime is taking steps to prevent further protests at universities. The regime likely views university students as a serious threat to regime stability, given that students played a significant role in the Masha Amini protests. Regime directed some universities on December 31st to do remote learning until the end of the semester. And then there's Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei appointed Brigadier General Ahmad Vahidi as IRGC Deputy Commander on December 27th, only 2 months after appointing him as Armed Forces General Staff Deputy Chief. Vahidi replaced Brigadier General Avi Fadavi, who had served as the IRGC Deputy Commander since May 2019. Vahidi's appointment as IRGC Deputy Commander reflects the challenges that Khamenei faces in trying to reconstitute Iran's military leadership following the war. Khamenei is also reportedly considering restructuring the relationship between the AFGS and the Khatam Ol Anbiya central headquarters, according to unspecified social media reports. A region in focus, the AANES and Syrian government representatives may reportedly meet within the next 2 weeks to discuss the Syrian Democratic Forces' integration into the Syrian state. And there's 1, 2, 3 dots here. Fars province, Iran. Iranian security forces shot live fire to disperse protesters, that's the same as above. Key takeaways. Protests in Iran. Iranian security forces shot live fire to disperse protesters in at least 2 instances on December 31st, as protests continued across Iran for the 4th consecutive day. Iranian regime is taking steps to prevent further protests at universities. Regime will likely view university students as a serious threat to regime stability, given that students played a significant role. We read that part. And then I had this article that I wanted to bring up that was written in 2023 for people who might not exactly know why things are as bad as they are right now. So this says, 44 years of an Islamic Republic, many now regret the 1979 revolution. February 11th, 2023 marks the 44th anniversary of the establishment of the Islamic Republic of Iran. At this time of year, Iranians have an annual discussion on what happened to their country since 1979 and debate the many facets of the Islamic Revolution that led to the ouster of Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. While there are disagreements over many aspects of the revolution, most Iranians agree that the country is in a far worse situation because of it. For instance, Faiza Hashemi, a former parliamentarian and daughter of former President Ali Akbar Hashemi Rafsanjani, stated that she would not have participated in the 1979 revolution. Since the December 2017 to January 2018 protests, the largest at the time in terms of geography since the 1979 revolution, demonstrators across the country have consistently called for an end to the Islamic Republic. On some occasions, demonstrators have explicitly expressed regret over their role in the 1979 revolution. Many Iranians, particularly those who sympathize with leftist organizations involved in the revolution, such as the Mujahideen Khalik, the Fahadeen Khalik, and the Tudeh Party, maintain that the 1979 revolution was a positive development in itself, but that the revolution was hijacked by Islamists led by Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. Looking back at the events of 1979 and the immediate aftermath of the revolution, however, reveals that the narrative of a stolen revolution is also false. Of course it's leftist, of course. I mean, who's surprised? While it is true that Islamists led by Khomeini gradually and ruthlessly eliminated their rivals, the notion that the 1979 revolution represented democratic or liberal aspirations is not supported by the evidence. The revolutionary government held a referendum in March 1979, asking the electorate to vote yes or no on whether they wanted an Islamic Republic. The yes vote won overwhelmingly. This referendum, however, took place amid an atmosphere of chaos, with former Prime Minister Shapor Bakatier in hiding and repression, which included Baha'is being targeted and officials of the Pahlavi government being executed after sham trials. Meanwhile, government forces and Kurdish armed groups were fighting in Sanandaj, the capital of Kurdistan province. With the contours of the Islamic Republic to be determined later, and considering the repression unleashed by the new revolutionary government, the March 1979 referendum cannot be considered a legitimate exercise of state power. Nevertheless, the revolutionary government did enjoy considerable popular support. Within days of the revolution's victory on February 11, 1979, sham trials and summary executions started. Between that date and April 1, 1979, the date on which the Islamic Republic was formally established after the referendum, at least 75 people were executed, according to the archive maintained by the Abdurrahman Borumand Center. The first victims were military officers and officials of the Pahlavi government. The executions enjoyed popular support as no major leftist organization opposed these arbitrary executions. I'm so shocked. We wanted communism, not Sharia, imagine. The Tudeh Party infamously supported Sadiq Khalkhali, known as the hanging judge, in parliamentary elections. Even Prime Minister Mehdi Bazargan, who was considered a liberal by some at the time, stated that he was happy that 4 military officers had been executed. The Islamic Republic's blatant disregard for human rights, as well as its anti-American posture, have continued to the present. These characteristics are not anomalies. They were objectives sought by the revolutionaries in 1979. In that sense, one can argue that at least some of the objectives for which the 1979 revolution was carried out have been realized. While many ordinary people participated in the revolution seeking a better life, the Islamists and leftist groups, who both led the revolution's political discourse, sought ideological goals that had been pursued by the government that came to power in February 1979. History is a flat circle. A leftist group and Islamists working together for the 1979 revolution? Leftists and Islamists working together in current year of our Lord 2026? Madame Guillotine is most generous to revolutionaries. The Islamists were the most successful as Iran became a major state implementing Sharia law, including gruesome punishments such as stoning and amputation of fingers, as well as the compulsory veiling of women. Leftists were ultimately eliminated by the Islamists, but many of their ideas, including nationalization of major industries, were adopted by the Islamic Republic in its constitution. That's kind of crazy to me. That, like, much like in communist revolution, all the, like, beautiful idea people get executed pretty fucking instantly after the regime comes to power. But the Islamic Republic was like, hey, some of these commie ideas could actually help us solidify our power a bit fucking harder than if we just had Sharia law. That's insane. They're just like, let's take a couple of pointers from these retards. They had a couple of good ideas we could piggyback off of. Lefties have no actual grip on power when in contest to a religious power dynamic. Congrats, retards, you gave the Islamists more power. That's kind of funny, and it would be funnier if it weren't so sad. What the future brings. Nationwide protests have erupted across Iran since the custodial death of Mahsa Jina Amini in September 2022. Protesters have consistently called for the end of the Islamic Republic. Some have even expressed support for Reza Pahlavi, the former crown prince, repudiating not only the Islamic Republic, but also the 1979 revolution. While the political preferences of the Iranian people can only be determined in free elections, the continued protests have clearly shown the Iranian people's desire for fundamental political change. With more than 500 people killed since September 2022, Iranians have demonstrated that they are willing to risk their lives to overthrow the Islamic Republic. The protests have involved various sectors of Iranian society, in addition to street protests across the country over several months. A 3-day nationwide strike was held in December 2022. Shopkeepers in tens of towns across various provinces and industries took part in the strike. This strike was the first nationwide strike in Iran since the 1979 revolution. Protests by university students have been a constant feature of this uprising. Moreover, high school students have also taken to the streets to protest. Asra Panahi, a 15-year-old high school student, was killed in northwestern Ardabil province when security forces beat her during a raid on the school. The raid officer, after students at her school reportedly refused to sing Salam Farmande, which is Salute Commander, a song praising Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Many activists who previously supported reforming the Islamic Republic have now concluded that reform is not possible and have joined the call for an end to the Islamic Republic. That's really funny. That's really funny. Once you have like this kind of regime in power, you've pretty much locked away all of your ability to exit it peacefully. You can vote in something like Sharia law or something like communism, but you will not be able to reform or vote your way out of it. The only way to get out of that level of oppressive, like, authoritarianism would be to violently get your way out. Bahira Hedayat, a student activist who had previously spent more than 6 years in prison after the disputed 2009 presidential election, indicated her support for overthrowing the Islamic Republic in a letter from Evin prison, where she is serving another sentence. Tarena Aladusti, a prominent actress, was arrested after she posted an unveiled picture of herself holding the Woman, Life, Freedom slogan in Kurdish. Both Hedayat and Aladusti had participated in the 2017 presidential election, and their support for the uprising against the Islamic Republic symbolized a major shift. Even former Prime Minister Mir Hossein Mousavi, who also had been under house arrest since 2011 due to his role as one of the leaders of the 2009 post-election protest known as the Green Movement, has supported the uprising and called for a referendum to be followed by the formation of a constitutional assembly and the drafting of a new constitution. Mousavi had insisted on adherence to the Constitution of the Islamic Republic even in the aftermath of the disputed 2009 presidential election, which he claimed to be fraudulent. Even as late as August 2022, Mousavi had expressed support for Ayatollah Khamenei. His recent statement, therefore, marks another milestone. Now, even the most ardent followers of Khamenei have come to the conclusion that the government he founded must cease to exist. While the ultimate outcome of the struggle is uncertain, it is very difficult to imagine the Islamic Republic regaining the popular support it enjoyed in prior decades. The fact remains, Iranians no longer want an Islamic Republic. And again, this article was in 2023, so this was even before the mass protests that are happening right now. So this says, Trump orders special forces to Europe as US prepares new attack on Iran. Experts say the planes, combined with departure locations and routing patterns, are consistent with the movement of Special Operations Aviation units. US is deploying Special Forces troops to Europe as fears of further American military operations grow after the capture of Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela by Delta Force troops. Flight tracking data shows an increase in US military flights arriving at RAF Fairford and RAF Mildenhall. Aircraft arriving at the two airfields included C-17 Globemaster III transport planes, as well as two AC-130 gunships. Most of the flights originated from Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and Hunter Army Airfield, Georgia. The C-17s were believed to be transporting U.S. Army rotary wing assets, although no MH-47 Chinook helicopters were directly observed at RAF Fairford. So it's interesting, I suppose. And I mean, Trump did say, if you shoot at protesters again, I'm gonna do something about it. And this might be the doing something about it. Thanks for skylining out troops, assholes who published this article. It's just why you can't talk about anything, man. But it's like you can't hide planes if you move them. Experts say that the planes, combined with departure locations and routing patterns, are consistent with the movement of Special Operations Aviation units. Open source imagery and flight data suggest the likely involvement of assets associated with the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, according to the UK Defense Journal. Imagine capturing fucking Maduro and then immediately going over to glass Iran. Like, what a fucking new year for these guys. Units from this formation include elements of the 75th Ranger Regiment and the 101st Airborne Division, as well as the 160th SOAR. These forces are routinely tasked with rapid response and high-risk missions, such as the capture or rendition of high-value individuals. Notably, similar increases in C-17 activity at RAF Fairford were observed in the run-up to the U.S. strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities in June 2025. Iran has been rocked by mass anti-regime protests since the end of December, with thousands taking to the streets to voice their anger. The new protests were sparked by a currency collapse and spiraling inflation, and have become the most widespread domestic unrest since 2022. Donald Trump had warned Tehran that the US may intervene if authorities start killing demonstrators. In a post to his Truth Social website on Friday, he wrote, "If Iran shoots," I'm thinking he means shoots, but they keep saying sick. "If Iran shoots and violently kills peaceful protesters, which is their custom, the United States of America will come to their rescue." The eldest son of Iran's former ruler, the Shah, said the protesters developed into a direct challenge to the country's clerical leadership. Reza Pahlavi said in a statement that the protests featured heavy usage of anti-regime slogans, including "Death to the dictator," "Long live the Shah," and "This is the last battle, Pahlavi will return." And I think it's very interesting, right, that once again we go into Venezuela, we capture the communist dictator, Venezuelans celebrate. If we go and we strike Iran because they started killing protesters, we go in there, people of Iran will obviously be very happy for the support. It reminds me of Venezuelans and Cubans and other people in the US from prior commie bloc countries, and Poland as well, warning people that if the US ends up falling to communism, there's nowhere to run. If the US falls, it is over. The US can go in and get Maduro. The US can go in and strike the fucking rulers of Iran. But if communists get a foothold in America, there will be no one who sends forces to help free us from that. It will be us on our own attempting to fix it. Which is again why it very much needs to be dealt with before communists get more of a foothold in this country than they already have. I don't like wide-scale interventionism. I don't like my tax dollars going to sandbox wars. Occasionally, I can understand why some things might need to be done if people in their country are exclusively suffering and after decades they've been unable to help themselves. And if they want that interventionism, I can understand it, and I can be like, okay, well, we removed a dictator, but can we please take care of some shit at home now? But it's very worrying to think about. If we get taken over, there is no one who can come to our rescue. There is no one who will be sending special operative soldiers to help us out of that situation. The US is it. And that is why everyone fleeing oppressive communist or Islamist regimes ends up coming here. The American militia is more than enough to stop some commies. The only reason it hasn't yet is because we're not in kinetic civil war yet. We're still in unfortunate cultural war, but it still just makes me think about that because, again, it's easy to doom pill when you see how slowly things get done. And I don't wish to do that, but occasionally you have the thoughts when you read about other countries freeing themselves from oppressive communist dictators. Again, like Nepal. Again, like Venezuela had been trying for decades, but they needed help. You know, it makes you think. It makes you think. The entire litter box of stand countries isn't worth holding. Let them worry about it. The problem is if you let certain things fester, it will eventually come to your backyard. And so, like, as much as I hate tax dollars going to certain things, and I absolutely do not want another forever war. I do not want boots on the ground anywhere. I do not want my countrymen dying in foreign wars for foreign interests. I can understand going in and taking someone like Maduro and getting the fuck out immediately. This guy Jay said, journalist and author of the Fort Bragg cartel, Seth Harp, doxes current commander of Delta Force, deletes his post and goes private. I don't think that HBO show is happening. And, I've never seen this happen before, but the picture is completely gone. It has just been completely removed from Twitter. And, he also said, reminder that the guy who wrote Somali Pirate Apologia so you can safely discard his opinion and replace it with, I just hate America, man. And it's a picture of Seth Harp saying, one detail that actually does matter, Somali quote-unquote pirates are just armed fishermen trying to defend the territorial waters of their destroyed country from exploitation by foreign fishing fleets and invading navies. Stay away from the Horn of Africa and they won't mess with you. Well, that clearly isn't true considering the amount of Somali fraud in Minnesota. Last I checked, Minnesota isn't in the Horn of Africa.
Look at me, sure. I'm the captain now.
But Jay here made another tweet saying, I posted this with the following images and 2.5 hours later, they're gone with only a dead link remaining. He tagged the Nikita guy who has also gone viral for being a little weird product manager guy on X. Do you know what's going on? And this is a blurred image, and it was Seth's original post saying, this is the current commander of Delta Force, whose men just invaded a sovereign country, killed a bunch of innocent people, and kidnapped the rightful president. What a fucking cuck. You will never hate journalists enough. By the way, it's perfectly legal for a US reporter to disclose classified material, the leakage of which I did not procure. So the Taylor Loren special, where they think that they can just dox random people and put them in danger for ideological reasons. You can never hate journalists enough. And Seth Harp obviously went protected, and his profile does say author of the critically acclaimed New York Times bestseller, The Fort Bragg Cartel, from Viking Books, soon to be a TV show from HBO. I definitely don't think he's getting that show. He doxed a Delta commander, then people started posting pictures of his front door, which he wasn't all right with. Why is that? If you can post pictures of the secret Delta commander, why can't people post pictures of your front door, Mr. Journalism Man? What would be the problem with that? Eric Doherty said, Americans are calling for a criminal investigation after a fake news reporter allegedly tried to dox the identity of the Delta Force commander, the highly secretive unit that carried out Maduro's capture. It's legal to disclose classified material, in quotes, because that's what the cuck said. Seth Harp has now locked his account, fearing fuck around and find out. Another quote from Seth, his men invaded a sovereign country, killed a bunch of people, and kidnapped the rightful president. Eric continues, raid his house now, and he CC'd the Department of War and the FBI. And we got some tweets here. Once again, he blurred out the picture completely, and it's Seth's original tweet, smugly claiming that he's allowed to do this, showing once again Seth protected his tweets. Eric Spracklin, I don't know who this guy is, but he said, this is treasonous. He should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. I agree. Journalists have been using doxing tactics to make people afraid for far too long. There needs to start being repercussions for this kind of bullshit. Someone named Brad R. Torgeson, full-time Army POG CW4 sci-fi writer. He said, recap, for those who missed it, Seth Harp is a prior Army reservist with an Iraq deployment to his credit, who parlayed his civ law career into a political world conflict journalism gig. He has a bestseller and a swanky mag byline to his credit. Claims SOF is full of murderous cokeheads. Hates Israel, decided to dox what he thought was a Delta Force senior officer. Doxed literally the wrong man. Promptly went into hiding as a result, digital hiding, sorry. As a result, will his swanky mag bylines keep his HBO option intact, or will they scuttle him due to the bad optics? If he doesn't get scuttled, there should be major fucking backlash for it. This is unacceptable behavior. You do not post these things about people because the only reason that you do is because you want them to become harmed. And then, he says, holy shit, what kind of cretin are you? Someone said, not gonna lie, watching the journalist that tried to blackmail me for the names of the men and my father's unit is kind of top tier content for me today. Seth Harp, you definitely had it coming. You don't blackmail survivors or children of Green Berets. Karma is definitely coming to bite you in the ass, and I'm here for it. I wish this journalist nothing but bad fortune forever, because why would you fucking do this? Andy Ngo also posting, as revenge for the US arresting Nicolas Maduro, leftist writer Seth Harp posted the name, photo, and biographical details of a purported Delta Force commander he believes led the operation. Apparently, wrong guy. The post went viral, but Harp identified the wrong military member, putting an international target on the man. Harp defended his actions, saying that he can leak classified material because he claims to be a reporter. That same mentality kind of reminds me about how, like, some people on the farming website tried renaming doxing to, like, phone booking to make it sound less egregious. And it's like, come on, man, everybody knows what you're talking about. Don't do the same shit as the scummy-ass journalist, man. Don't go that direction. You could not leak classified info. It is treason to the US. Emerald Apple here saying, I think Seth Harp's career and life is genuinely over. We can only hope he's never allowed to write ever again. This isn't just a small screw-up. He really opened himself up to massive civil lawsuits and possible criminal acts against the United States. And I would like to see that repercussion happen. Because how do you get so smug and self-righteous that you think you're doing the correct thing by publishing details of who you think the Delta Force military people are that carried out capturing Nicolas Maduro? At what point do you think that that is an okay thing to do? And how have we gotten to the point where journalists have been doxing people without repercussion for so long that this guy was smug about posting it? It's crazy. We have Seth Harp making a statement. He said, statement on the ludicrous allegations of doxing leveled at me by a large number of fascist, authoritarian, and far-right accounts. Aw, little buddy, I know you're used to your magic spells working and getting people to shut the fuck up, but you have fucked aroundest the most, and now you're about to find outest, hopefully also the most. What a fucking cracked individual in a bad way. Yesterday, ex-admins locked my account and required me to delete certain posts in order to log back in. No explanation was given, but I had posted the publicly available online bio of a Delta Force commander, a full-bird colonel whose identity is not classified and which anyone skilled at Freedom of Information Act can ascertain. Which is another issue I have, right? This guy wants to say, oh, it's public information because you can FOIA it. That's not a big deal. This is how some VTubers have also gotten doxxed, because they've been very good with their OPSEC, and some people have decided, let's send in FOIA requests to find out information. It was like all over Twitter, people were talking about it, and it's like, that's fucking wild that you would go to that extent to try and, like, get this personal information on someone. It doesn't matter if you can FOIA someone's personal information. They're trying to keep it private for a reason. I was like, what the fuck? And I'm sure these same people would also cry and scream about the mass surveillance bullshit. But it's like, you're helping to put these people in danger. Now, you implied this was the right guy and gave his name to your murderous leftist audience? Exactly. Doxing is still doxing, even if it's publicly available. It's bringing it to the attention of the public that makes it doxing. You think legal mindset went over it once. Yeah. There are people who participate in this kind of behavior who will try to weasel word their way into, like, any kind of, like, it's okay that I did it because it's publicly available. And it was publicly available, like, due to them having to dig around in other places. And then why would you publish it? Why would you what was the point of publishing it? It's because you want something bad to happen to that person. Whether that be actual physical threats on them, or whether that be people trying to, like, send pizzas and shit to their house as some kind of weird troll operation. The only point of publishing that is because you want something to happen to that person. He continues, in no way did I dox the officer. I did not post any personally identifying information about him, such as his birthday, social security number, home address, phone number, email address, the names of his family members, or pictures of his house. What I posted is still online on Duke University's website for all the world to see. Bro, nobody knew who the Delta Force people are. Why would you unmask who one of them are? The only reason you would do that is because you wanted harm to come to them. Shut the fuck up. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about you, Mr. Seth. If you serve in the US military, your personnel documents are public records, as they should be. Because I served in the Army myself, anyone can obtain my records, which show the units in which I served. Nothing exempts Delta Force from this basic transparency. To illustrate these points, I also posted the records of deceased special operators, obtained through FOIA, that specifically say Delta Force on them, unredacted. Why would... This guy is fucking insane. In the spirit of fairness, I also posted my own service record. X required me to delete those posts too. Nothing about this should distract from the larger issue. Delta Force acting on President Trump's unlawful orders, they weren't unlawful, I almost said a slur. Which contravened every principle of international law and sovereignty, as well as Congress's prerogative to declare war. Invaded Venezuela, killed scores of Venezuelans who posed no threat to the United States. Where is he getting that from? Wasn't there like 0 civilian casualties? What is this? And kidnapped the Venezuelan president, Nicolas Maduro, as well as his wife. Every civilian official and military officer in the American chain of command who participated in this outrageously illegal and provocative act of war, which a supermajority of Americans oppose, is the legitimate subject of journalistic scrutiny, and X has no business censoring my timely and accurate reporting. You can report all you want about how you think this was an illegal operation and how it's international law. You can report on all of that. The only reason you would post the names and the faces of any of the Delta officers is because you want something to happen to them. You want people on your side to attack them. That is the only reason you post that shit. Dude posted the wrong guy. Yeah, dude, he even posted the wrong guy. And fun fact, it is possible for assignment to certain duties can in fact be classified and redacted from FOIA. Your friend's uncle lived right next door to one of the bomb sites in Venezuela. All his windows broke. No other damages, says it was 100% worth it. Hell yeah. Where did he get the supermajority number? Where are these stats that he's pulling out of his asshole? Probably from his asshole, you know? And it reminds me him calling this, like, every civilian official and military officer who participated in this outrageously illegal and provocative act of war. Weren't there a handful of politicians, including that Maggie Goodlander fucking weirdo, who made a video basically saying if you're in the military, you don't have to follow illegal orders? And we all thought that that was incredibly fucking weird on the backs of 2 National Guard members being shot in DC, and one of them unfortunately dying because some fucking insane retard decided to attack National Guard members. And then those 4 people made that video that was basically treasonous. And now we have this guy repeating all of the military people involved. It's outrageously illegal. Going back to these people should refuse illegal orders. They weren't illegal orders, but it's like, I'm noticing a pattern with these people. Newly Wired, thank you. Literally every outlet and government in the Western world called out the invalid election in Venezuela. How can Maduro be claimed to be rightful? Even fucking Joe Biden put out a statement on how Maduro, like not recently, but like years ago, put out how he didn't rightfully win anything. But it was like 2020 or some shit, right? Biden was like, oh, $25 million bounty on Maduro. Was it like, what are we doing here? And so the guy posting this said, Look at this sniveling weasel trying to justify why it was okay for him to dox a special missions unit commando after an operation. Eat a whole bag, dude. You ruined yourself. HBO and Viking Books should drop you immediately. Hell, they never should have signed a lying, narcissistic, shabby author like yourself to begin with. What a disgrace of a human being you are. And this is an 18 series Army veteran, according to his bio. And then this person said, members of Delta, along with other service members who belong to Special Missions Unit, are taken out of the quote-unquote system and put on a special roster so their identities cannot be searched by any random service member who has access to the personnel system. Seth says, if you serve in the US military, your personnel documents are public record. That's simply not true for members of these organizations. They're masked and only accessible by special sections at HRC with need-to-know access only. He either made the information up and identified the wrong person, or someone with access to a classified system within a classified system, not going to explain that part, provided him this information. Either way, his entire explanation is provably not true, and it represents a serious breach of very close-held access. It's a very, very interesting thing, and hopefully we will see Seth Harp be absolutely driven to madness by the consequences of his own actions, because that is a very fucking shitty thing to do. You do not publish the information that doxes someone. You don't do that. Popular grocery store chain uses biometric surveillance on shoppers, raising privacy concerns. A viral door notice reveals Wegmans collects face scans and voice prints of customers in some stores, which is kind of fucking wild. Why would they do that? A viral post highlighting biometric surveillance at a Wegmans grocery store in New York City is sparking reviewed privacy concerns. And see, I'm torn on this, because now that it's in New York City, I'm like, I don't want stores recording my face, and I definitely don't want stores recording my voice. However, if they're in like this super fucking high crime area, especially where police officers either don't bother arresting the criminals, or if they do, they just get released by the DA anyway, this might be the only way to have these kinds of stores in those kinds of areas. They voted for this. Give Wegmans your blood to become a verified shopper. Isn't Wegmans the company that said they would pull out if Mamdani got elected? I have no idea. I have no idea if they did or not. If they're scanning your face and recording your voice, then they're doing that so that they can do targeted ads at specific individuals. Also, some stores have been busted for adjusting prices per customer. Yeah, I've been talking about that for ages because part of Bridges' plan was to have equitable pricing and equitable product availability. So, does not surprise me at all. Imagine doing all of this 1984 shit and then just releasing all of the adjusted affected individuals anyways. Yeah, it's like I could understand why a store might want to do this because crime is just allowed to happen. I still don't like it. And I still wouldn't want to go to a place that had that stuff because it makes me uncomfortable, and also that equitable pricing nonsense. I don't want to deal with that either. The only reason they're doing this is because they won't just enforce the law. And see, that makes the tinfoil grow, right? The tinfoil grows because you have all these activist judges and activist DAs and police who are doing nothing, just releasing criminals time and time and time again. And these stores who are being told by Bridge to do stuff with equitable pricing and equitable product availability, and they also want to do more targeted advertising towards people. So what better excuse to use than, oh, we're in a crime-ridden hellhole, we have to have facial recognition, we have to record your voice, we have to do these pricing differentials because look at our poor store in this crime-ridden shit place. It's like, it just seems like it gives them more of an excuse to do these things that have really bad connotation and really fucking bad outcome. But then again, you can look at it and be like, but the crime. And like that bothers me, and it's like an internal struggle in my brain. Biometric identifier information collected at this location, a sign attached to the door of a Wegmans reads, Wegmans Food Market Incorporated collects, retains, converts, stores, or shares customers' biometric identifier information, which may include facial recognition, eye scans, and voice prints. Why is the grocery store collecting eye scans and voice prints? Like this goes well beyond anything they should need for any kind of like crime happening. And also sharing the identifier information With whomst? Whomsted are you giving this personal biometric eye scan information to? What possible purpose could that have? And also, considering they're retaining and storing it, could you imagine if wherever they were storing it got hacked and that kind of shit got released? That's scary. Wear sunglasses when shopping? I guess you have to wear sunglasses. Oh my god. What if part of this is like the smart glasses can sell like eye scan collection blocking technology, kind of like the RFID blocking stuff on wallets? Oh no, brother man. This level of overkill security at a grocery store? Do they sell beanstalk seeds that grow into the sky? Yeah, you really have to ask, like, why? Wegmans confirms it is collecting the biometric readings, telling Fox News Digital in a statement that the safety of our customers and employees is a top priority. Yeah, okay, I'm not buying this, right? Like, even if I wanted to use the crime excuse, why would you need eye scans and voice prints for that? That makes no goddamn sense. The company went on, like many retailers, we use cameras to help identify individuals who pose a risk to our people, customers, or operation. What are you, a fucking mafia? What is this? In a small fraction of our stores that exhibit an elevated risk. See? That's what I said. I was like, if they're in a fucking crime-ridden hellhole. We have deployed cameras equipped with facial recognition technology. Wegmans said the technology in New York City complies with local requirements. That's even scarier, actually. This technology is solely used for keeping our stores secure and safe. It goes a little far. It goes a bit far, man. The system collects facial recognition data and only uses it to identify individuals who have been previously flagged for misconduct, Wegmans says. I just don't believe you. Because how are they gonna know if it's an individual previously flagged for misconduct if it doesn't have all of the other people cataloged? This doesn't prevent anything if law enforcement doesn't convict criminals. This only impacts law-abiding citizens. Also a very good point. The Rochester, New York-based grocery chain said it retains images and videos of shoppers for as long as necessary for security purposes, before disposing of them. For security reasons, we do not disclose the exact retention period, but it aligns with industry standards. Persons of interest are determined by our asset protection team based on incidents occurring on our property and on a case-by-case basis. Buy information from law enforcement for criminal or missing persons cases. They can't just throw missing persons in here. They can't just do that, because then it's like, well, that would be a good thing, but there's so much more wrong with this than the one good thing. Wegmans says it does not share biometric data with any third party.
Flashback.
Wegmans Food Market Incorporated collects, retains, converts, stores, or shares customers' biometric identifier information.
End of flashback.
And that's vague enough where they can say, oh, we don't share it with a third party, but like, you already said you shared it with someone. Oh, look at this fucking white supremacist. They looked at the milk for 5 seconds longer than the average individual. That's how we know they're a dangerous white supremacist. Facial recognition technology serves as one investigative lead for us. We never base our decisions on a single lead alone, the statement concluded. Our goal is simple: to keep our stores safe and secure. It is unclear how many stores are using facial recognition technology. Wegmans has more than 100 stores in 9 states: Connecticut, Delaware, Maryland, Massachusetts. Okay, so they did end up building them there. New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Virginia, plus Washington, D.C., according to its website. Legislator Rachel Bernhardt of Monroe County, New York, wrote a letter to Colleen Wegman, president and CEO of the grocery chain, asking her to publicly state if biometric surveillance is in use at Wegman stores outside of New York City. Reporting on Wegmans NYC locations has made clear that biometric surveillance, including facial recognition, is operating in grocery stores where customers have no practical opportunity to provide informed consent or meaningfully opt out, Bernhardt wrote in part in her January 4th letter. Without explicit binding limits, assurances that biometric data is used only for security are insufficient, particularly given growing law enforcement and federal immigration reliance on third-party data sources. That's interesting that her reasoning for being against Wegmans using this is to protect illegals. She's just like that. You can't just say you're using it for security now that we live in a world where illegal aliens are actually getting deported. What a fucking cunt. I was about to be like, I'm glad a politician is saying something about this. I'm glad. Oh, but now I'm not, because she's only reporting on it because she wants to protect illegals. That's crazy. What the fuck is wrong with people in New York? Bitch, don't make me want to agree with this kind of surveillance shit. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was like, how dare you make me want to agree with something I hate? Fuck you. The government will never pass laws protecting privacy from things like this because the government is one of the biggest purchasers of that data, unfortunately so. It's a violation of our constitutional rights if the government collects the data, so they outsource the collection to a private entity. The Patriot Act was nothing but a mistake. It'd be faster to list what isn't wrong with New York, true. Barnhart questioned whether the technology will one day be used for dynamic pricing or targeted promotions. Once again, yes, it will be. If everything I've read from Bridge and what they want to do is correct, which why wouldn't it be if I'm reading their words in video and on paper, this is what they want to use this recognition for. They want equity in product pricing and equity in product availability. And it's fucking disgusting. A substantive written response was requested within 30 days. Wegmans describes itself as a value-based family company on its website, noting that it was founded by brothers Walter and John Wegman in Rochester, New York. The company's story, it also says, began in 1916, help, and we've been hitting milestones and gaining attention in the supermarket industry ever since. Mr. Zach Bussey said, seeing a bunch of streamers report that their Twitch accounts were compromised and that their payout methods were changed, despite having 2FA on. Linking a bunch of posts in the replies, but keep an eye on this. And someone said, this is possibly a supply chain attack of a popular plugin or other software, or malicious file downloaded, so scan your computer as it looks to have been based in formation, a session hijacking to compromise the accounts, based on the fact that it bypassed 2FA, and this is the most known cause. I have no idea what this means. But like, I wasn't home when I read this, so I was like panicked. I was panicked like, oh no, what if it done got me? Thankfully, I did not get got, but it seems like a lot of other people got. Someone fucked with a plugin and it's snatching accounts. That's crazy. How did they get access to a plugin? And how does getting access to a plugin give you access to like people's payment information? Essentially, some plugins for Twitch are fucked. I'm glad that I am very weird about adding things. You know, people still unironically think a 2FA is be-all, end-all protection or lobotomized. I wouldn't even know what to do beyond 2FA. From what you understand, he suspects the vector of attack was stealing the information that quote-unquote keeps you logged in to whatever is in question. Plugin hijacks your cookie session and steals your details. So what you're saying is like regularly clear your cookies? I do that sometimes, but I hate it because I have to relog into everything. Session hijacking involves your browser plugins or a bad website getting your cookies and shit. It makes someone look like it's you while logged in. Huh. This guy said, definitely recommend all my fellow streamers to quickly double check their accounts today. What I got hit with was more low-key than Prime sub spam. I have no idea what the Prime sub spam was, but apparently some people on Twitch have been experiencing like a whole bunch of accounts spamming them with subscribing with Twitch Prime. And it's like not real or some shit. I have no idea. This is the first time I heard of it when I saw like this scam. He said, meaning this is probably a way bigger problem than at first glance, and there's probably people who just had their payout info changed without any kind of warning. Twitch and Dan Clancy better be taking notes and looking into these. And the biggest problem with this, and he'll probably go into it in a second, is that in your Twitch account, you only have so much time to change your payment information for the month. And if you like miss that time, then your payment is like locked in. So like, for instance, on mine, it says payouts for the current period will be finalized on January 4th at 11:59 p.m. UTC. Any changes to payout settings after this date will be applied to the next payout cycle. So if your Twitch account had gotten compromised by whatever the fuck's going on with people hijacking your session and basically pretending to be you, and changing your payout details without 2FA even getting involved, if they changed it before January 4th, and you didn't notice until after January 4th at 11:59 p.m. UTC, you're fucked. And those scammers have gotten your payout that's going to happen. Which is crazy. It's crazy to think, because there was somebody in this like chain of things that said they reached out to Twitch support, and Twitch support told them that they couldn't help them. Which I'm not surprised, because imagine support for Twitch or YouTube being helpful in any way, shape, or form. Are the payout times the same for everyone or individualized? I would like to believe they're the same for everyone, because it wouldn't make sense to have my you can't change your payout date set to midnight on January 4th when I don't typically get paid out by Twitch until like somewhere between the 14th and the 18th. Sometimes they can be a bit late. But usually it's like 14th, 15th pretty reliably. Christ, how ridiculous, yeah? When I think about when I get paid, it's a little goofy, right? Because, like, I get paid by Twitch, like, between the 14th and the 18th, and I get paid by YouTube, like, the 20th to the 24th, around there. And so it's like, my payments are all at the end of the month instead of the beginning of the month. Imagine the rats if the attackers change the wallet to another streamer's wallet. Well, I don't know if I have it pulled up here, but they actually, like, left, yeah, they did leave an email with, like, first name, last name. So they're probably not a very intelligent person. But this Kubi guy continues. He said, December 31st at 7:44 a.m., whatever time zone he's in. He said, first-time chatter Sidanix sends me 40,000 bits, which is 400 USD, while he's offline. I immediately assume it's a chargeback scam or fraud and keep watching for the minus 400. I've had stuff like this happen before. And sometimes, to ease the anxiety, the person who sends me a ridiculous amount of money while I'm offline will prefix their message with, I purposely did this while you were offline. And I was like, oh, okay, bro. And I remember, like, I feel indebted to still thank them while not saying their name when I go live. Because, like, Jesus Christ, that's a lot of money to just drop on me, especially when I'm not even fucking streaming. So I still want to say thank you. And I remember when it happened one time with like thousands of dollars, I was just like, I don't know if you're okay. I don't know if like this was a mistake, if you added like an extra zero or something, but like, holy fuck, thank you. And if you want me to refund you, like, let me know, because that's insane. Like, I was just shell-shocked out of my mind. This guy continues, January 4th at 2:49 p.m. So 11:49 p.m. UTC. 10 minutes before the deadline. Still no chargeback, but while I am actively fucking streaming, I get an email telling me my payout information changed. I scramble to change the payout information before the January 4th, 11:59 a.m. UTC deadline. So yeah, it does look universal. Log myself out of all instances and change my password. I make it with literal minutes to spare. My account was compromised without access to my phone for authentication, without access to my 2FA app, without me ever signing in or anything other than my phone and PC, and without sending a new login or 2FA change alert to my email. Which is, yeah, that's fucking crazy. The hacker removed my 2FA app from my account and added their own. They had full control of my account, and the dumbasses didn't even lock me out. Which, you know, thankfully, right? Like, if they had locked him out, he'd be in even worse position. It's a very good thing that they were dumb enough to not, like, change his password. Afterwards, they changed the payout information to the PayPal email, which was chris_barnsby@hotmail.com, instead of a bank transfer like the quoted tweet. Once I got everything settled, I sent the email address to partner support and ran them through the steps that I took. They took it better than the quote tweet, at least, but still no chargebacks. The 15th is going to be real messy depending on how many people didn't notice or didn't catch their payout information changing in time. And he's correct. He's correct. However many people are probably actually affected by this is likely way more than the people who noticed in time to be able to fix their payment information. So it's going to be real messy once the 15th rolls around. And I definitely expect to see more tweets about this as more people realize what happened. He said, and yes, me and my chat signed that email up for as much bullshit spam as we possibly could. And then he shows the screenshots here of someone named Sidanix tipping 40,000 bits. This could be completely legit, as again, I've received like big amounts of money or donos or bits through things when I'm offline. It can happen. It's just very rare. So this could just be like a red herring, right? This might have just been an actual person that wanted to give him something, and it looks very suspicious in the lead up to him having his shit changed. It could also be part of the scam. We wouldn't know. But more of these screenshots though. He shows more evidence. It said payout, manage your payout options and payout method. Shows the January 4th deadline here. Shows the guy's email change to chris_barsby@hotmail.com. And then the Twitch support email that says, hello, Kubi. Thank you for taking the time to report the email after you secured your account. I've let the appropriate team know. In the meantime, please make sure to, and he obviously blurted out because probably some personal information stuff. The daycare to unsecurity council president pipeline is real. And then someone else said, what the fuck? Same thing here. So this person saw this tweet and thankfully checked their shit. It says January 5th though, so they might have to go through the horrible support experience and just hope they get help. Just hope they get help. I don't know if there's any other people here. There's going to be so many people who are going to wonder what happened with their payments next week. You're the second one I've heard of who had this happen live while they were streaming. And others who didn't have any suspicious activity happened the first, like the subs and bits. Covering everything in this post. There's a Twitch hacked, Twitch payout hacked. I don't know, cybersec guru. This should be fine to click, right? TLDR, a sophisticated new wave of cyber attacks is targeting Twitch streamers, successfully bypassing two-factor authentication to drain earnings. Major creators and smaller affiliates alike are reporting that their payout methods are being silently swapped to unauthorized accounts. Here's everything you need to know, how to check your account immediately, and why the community is in panic mode. The streaming community woke up to a nightmare scenario this week. It didn't start with a loud server crash or public defacement of the front page. It started silently in the back-end dashboards of hundreds of creators who went to check their monthly earnings only to find their bank details vanished, replaced by unknown PayPal addresses and accounts. The terrifying part is that almost every victim had 2FA enabled. Reports began flooding social media last night, spearheaded by streaming news veterans, confirming that this isn't an isolated incident. It's a coordinated, high-level exploit targeting the very livelihood of content creators. This is what I want to know, because I was like, how the fuck is this even possible? We're learning, chat. For years, the gold standard of digital security has been 2FA. We're told that if we have our phone or authenticator app, we're safe. This attack shatters that illusion. According to reports from affected streamers like Kionafu, Sasaga Reina, and Hime Misty, the attackers did not need to brute force passwords. They didn't need to SIM swap phones. They seemingly walked right through the front door. The session token hypothesis. Cybersecurity experts are weighing in on the thread to suggest this is likely a session token hijacking or a pass the cookie attack. How it works is when you log into Twitch, your browser saves a cookie, so you don't have to type your password every time you refresh the page. The exploit is that hackers use malware, often disguised as game demos, sponsorship offers, or seemingly innocent browser extensions, to steal the specific cookie. So, as a streamer, I often get scam emails. Whenever I get emails about, like, sponsorship offers, I don't click anything in the email. I mean, half the time I don't even bother with it because I'm like, well, they're not offering enough money, or this is a game that I would never touch in a million years, or it's like some sort of weird cryptocurrency project that I don't give a shit about. So like half of those emails already just never even get any attention from me. But the ones that do sound interesting, I'll sometimes like throw the company name or throw the game name into a Google search, and it'll come back with like a website that has a million misspellings and things are out of place and just don't look real. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's a fucking scam. That's not fucking real. And so I just ignore it. And sometimes, like in more recent months, when the emails start looking more legitimate, I'll take a screenshot of it and I'll show it to my Mythic manager, because I have one now, right? And I'm like, hey, I got this email. Is this something that we can do? And if it's real, he'll be like, yeah, I'll go check if we have a budget for it. And if it's not real, he's like, nah, this is a scam, bro. The result with the cookie, the hacker becomes you. To the Twitch server, the request looks like it's coming from your already authenticated computer. The server doesn't ask for a 2FA code because it thinks you are the one making a change. The victims speak out, my rent money is gone. The human cost of this breach is devastating. We aren't just talking about numbers on a screen, we're talking about rent, medical bills, and grocery money. The timeline of the attack is 1, the discovery. Streamers like DJ Tickle and Anonymous1270X noticed irregularities not when logging in, but when receiving email notifications, or worse, when their expected payout date passed with 0 funds deposited. The realization was upon checking their affiliate and partner settings, they found their direct deposit info replaced. And many attempted to change it back, only to find that the hackers had set up script bots to instantly revert the changes or lock the account entirely. Oh, that's a fucking extra fucking horrible step. What the hell? What the fuck? That is insane. How do you even fix that? How do you even fix that? It sounds so frustrating. It does. Like, I am incredibly grateful this obviously hasn't happened to me, but this sounds incredibly obnoxious to have to deal with, especially because we all know how bad support with Twitch can be. So it's probably for these people, it feels fucking horrendous. Direct reports from the front lines, these are the 3 streamers they mentioned earlier in the article. Kianafu posted a harrowing thread detailing the timeline of the breach, noting that no suspicious login alerts were triggered. Sasuga Reina confirmed that despite the using an authenticator app, usually more secure than SMS, the breach still occurred. Hime Misty shared a particularly damning account of the failure of security protocols and the subsequent response from support. They said, "I will be so honestly, I have no idea. I thought my account had all the safeguards in place to prevent fraud. I have 2FA, I have mobile authorization, I have emails on. I don't know what I could have done to prevent, and TS, Twitch support, didn't provide any feedback. They only tried to gaslight me into thinking no one tried to change my account information." As of this morning, Twitch has not issued a platform-wide red alert, which they should, and that they still haven't is incredibly awful. Though support tickets are reportedly piling up by the thousands. Historically, platforms are hesitant to admit to a systemic breach if they believe the issue lies with the user-side malware, info stealers. However, the sheer volume of simultaneous reports suggests a potential vulnerability in Twitch's specific payout vendor portal, Tipalti, or the way Twitch handles sensitive action, re-authentication. The critical question is, why does changing a payout method not trigger a mandatory fresh 2FA challenge that ignores cached cookies? This is a security standard in banking. Why is it not standard for a platform processing millions of dollars? That is actually a very good question, and it's incredibly weird. I went to go try and change something with my personal information on Twitch, and it wasn't the payout information specifically, but it was something therein. And they told me, oh, actually, you can't change any of that in here. You have to go through the partner onboarding another time if you want to change that info. So then my question becomes, if I have to go through the onboarding again in order to change this other information, why is it so much easier to change the actual payout location? That doesn't make any sense. Immediate action is required. If you're a streamer, partner, affiliate, or just starting out, you need to act now. Don't wait for a notification. Assume you're a target. Before you even log into your Twitch, you must ensure your PC is clean. If you have malware, logging in just gives the hackers your new password. Run a deep scan, use Malwarebytes. I've used Malwarebytes for years. I fucking love that program. Or Windows Defender to scan for info stealers. Check your browser extensions and remove anything you didn't install yesterday. That Twitch emote resizer you installed last week might be a Trojan horse. The nuclear reset is once your PC is clean, log out of all devices, go to Twitch settings, security and privacy, and select log out everywhere. This invalidates the stolen session cookies. Change your password, make it unique, 25 plus characters. If your password doesn't look like some nonsense word in German, it's probably not strong enough. Throw in a couple slurs just for safe measure, you know? Some people aren't going to want to type that out. You work IT? There was a girl once that gave you her password blushing and embarrassed. It was dirty slut. That's not a very secure password! Password is as loose as she is, goddamn! The payout audit. Navigate to creator dashboard, settings, affiliate partner payout method. Verify every digit. Is that your PayPal? Is that your bank account ending in 1234? Snapshot it. Take a screenshot of your correct settings for your records. Revoke connected apps. Hackers don't always need your password if they have an authorized app. Go to settings, connections, look at other connections, and ruthlessly disconnect anything you don't use daily. That random quiz app from 2021, delete it. I see people doing those like Twitter things every so often, and part of me wishes that I could also like sometimes do it.
Bad girl.
But I don't want to like go to a website that's like, oh, connect your Twitter and then find out what kind of Stranger Things character you are, or whatever the fuck they are, right? It's like, I don't want to connect my Twitter. I just want to take your shitty internet quiz. I love shitty internet quizzes, but I'm not gonna fucking attach my account to it, man. Why this viral hack is different. We have seen hacks before. The 2021 source code leak was massive, but mostly abstract. This is tangible theft. The whaling strategy, unlike scattershot phishing, this attack seems targeted. The victims are active, earning streamers. The attackers are monitoring the payout status API to strike right before the processing date, usually the 12th to 15th of the month. Well, that's not true. That's not true. As we've seen, and I read out on my own page, if you didn't change your payout information by January 4th at 11:59 p.m., my brain, 11:59 p.m. UTC, then your payouts for the 12th to the 15th are fucked. Like, you can't change it. So they've fucked over quite a few people already, unfortunately. The 2FA crisis, this event is a wake-up call for the entire tech industry. 2FA via SMS is dead. 2FA via app is vulnerable to cookie theft. The only true defense remaining is hardware security keys, the FIDO2 and WebAuthn, like YubiKeys, which require a physical touch to authenticate a new session. YubiKeys? I'm just gonna go pull a tooth out of Kiba's mouth really quick. That's gonna be my 2FA. The SEO of scams, hackers are getting smarter. They know streamers search for Twitch sponsorship opportunities. Don't do that. Don't do that. If you want a sponsorship and you know like what kind of sponsorship you're going for, right? Like, before I got my Mythic Manager and when I was trying to get sponsors on my own, I would go through every single game that was going to be released that year. I would compile a list of the games. I would ask Nim to like find out a bit of information on them and bring back that information so I could decide exactly how interested I was in them. I wouldn't want to support something that was like crazy fucking DEI infected or had developers that would just be assholes, right? So I would ask him to dig up a bit of information, and then I would shorten that list, and I would look at the games that I had, and I would send emails to both the developers and the publishers, if there were two, for those games, being like, hey, I'm a streamer, here are my statistics. I did this before I was a multicaster, so it was one statistic. After I was a multicaster, I showed all my statistics. I gave them the links to all of my socials. And I explained like why I would be a good candidate for them to partner with. And I've gotten a lot of sponsors that way. That's how I ended up doing the sponsors for Wanted Dead. I did like 3, I'm pretty sure, for Wanted Dead. That game was fun as fuck. Twitter and X are currently ablaze with the hashtag Twitch. The sentiment is shifting from fear to anger. The demand is creators are demanding a payout lock feature, a setting that freezes payout details for 30 days or requires a video ID verification to change. I haven't seen anyone asking for that, and I'm kinda like, Twitch already has all of your personal details if you have a bank account or a payout option set to it. So having to like send them an ID again, I don't think is that big of a deal. But I would be very worried if they decided to like require any kind of ID verification for things outside of that. Right, that would be my concern. And just a thought, but with the Ubisoft hack recently, could they have gained access via linking the accounts? I didn't even think of that. That's a possibility. The reality, until Twitch implements biometric or hardware level security for financial changes, the burden of defense lies entirely on the creator. And I do think something needs to be done to protect creators from these kinds of things. One analyst has put it best in a recent follow-up: the scary thing isn't that they got in, it's that the system designed to keep them out, 2FA, didn't even blink. Can I get my money back if it was sent to the hacker? It's extremely difficult. Once Twitch sends the funds to an account listed on file, the transaction is usually final. However, if you catch it before the paid status marks on the 15th of the month, Twitch support might be able to place a hold on the funds. Open a ticket under payout issues immediately. And this is like the only hope that people have if they had their details changed, is just hope that someone in support will actually listen to you and actually fix this. Like, it makes me feel incredibly bad for anyone who's been affected, because the support is just notoriously shit. I have 2FA on, am I safe? No. As this hack demonstrates, if your session cookie is stolen via malware, 2FA can be bypassed. You must ensure your computer is free of malware and frequently log out of all active sessions. How do you know if you're hacked? Check your connections tab for unknown apps, check your payment method for changes, and look for successful login emails from locations you don't recognize. What is a session token/cookie? It is a digital VIP pass your browser keeps so you don't have to show your ID password every time you enter a room. Page. Hackers are stealing the pass instead of forging the ID. Should I switch to YouTube Gaming and Kick? The specific vulnerability, cookie theft, applies to almost all web services, including YouTube and Kick. Moving platforms won't fix a compromised computer. Focus on securing your hardware first. And I think this is all very good information, and it did help me understand a little bit better how this was happening, because it was like, how the fuck can they get around 2FA without 2FA even alerting people? That's crazy.